Thanks for joining us for the webinar. This is Jackie Wong. I'm joined today by Scott Carlberg and Mark Wilder. And today we're going to do product updates on SigmaLogic7 Compact, some updates on the SLIO product, as well as the Batteryless Encoder. So just a quick overview of the agenda. I'm first going to go over the SigmaLogic7 Compact update, specifically the addition of the 400-volt product line. After, I will talk a little bit about the SLIO update. Scott will then talk about the Batteryless Encoder product, and he will also do an overview of the online resources that's available for everyone moving forward. And last but not least, Mark Wilder will close off the presentation by doing some software demonstration, specifically the LogicWorks version 2 for the SigmaLogic7 Compact product, as well as the hardware configuration portion of MotionWorks IEC version 3.6 as it relates to the SLIO products. So before we talk about SigmaLogic7 Compact, just want to do a quick recap of the SigmaLogic product in general. So a couple years ago, we introduced the SigmaLogic product specifically as a door opener as it relates to Rockwell accounts. So the SigmaLogic product is really a Yaskawa amplifier that can be accessed through a Rockwell controller. As most of you should be familiar with it, the product can be used in two ways. One is the user can use individual motion function blocks, or what the Rockwell users would call an AOI, an add-on instructions, and that would be used in the SLIO programming environment. The other way a user can use this product is to use the AOI to start a predefined motion sequence that is stored in the SigmaLogic axis itself. So in terms of AOIs, all the AOIs are created and tested by Yaskawa. They are made to be compatible with CompactLogix and ControlLogix PLC. Just keep in mind that SLIO software version 17 and above is required to use these AOIs. These AOIs are named to be familiar to Rockwell users. In the Rockwell environment, right-click Instructions Hub is available, and Yaskawa is also able to provide a sample program for the SLIO 5000 for customers to get started. And here's a list of the, on your left side, there's a list of the AOIs that Yaskawa has created. Also shown here are the different home types and the move types that's available for these AOIs. So after the SigmaLogic was launched, we realized that because of the option card that's shown on the picture on the right side, the product itself is not very compact, and there's added cost to it. So after we introduced the SigmaLogic, we decided to introduce what we call the SigmaLogic7 Compact, where we got rid of the option card on the side and made a much more compact product. The function is very similar to SigmaLogic. However, as mentioned earlier, there's no option card on the side, which makes the package much smaller. One additional change that we made was in the previous product, the SigmaLogic, the Ethernet IP ports are independent, but we added for this new SigmaLogic7 Compact, we added an internal switch, which allows the customer to really daisy chain the product. Also, in the past, linear and rotary motor are supported separately, meaning that for linear and rotary motors, they actually have different part numbers for amplifiers. For the SigmaLogic7 Compact, we have actually wrote linear and rotary motor support in the same part number and amplifier. Again, because of the lack of the option card on the side, there is no external encoder available, so no gearing applications for the SigmaLogic7 Compact. And again, because of no option card on the side, your customers will be left with the onboard I/O for Sigma 7, which is 7 digital input and 3 digital output. The product, just like the original SigmaLogic will be configured through LogicWorks version 2. Now, because of the elimination of the option card on the side, as mentioned earlier, all the gearing functionality will be gone. So any gearing AOIs or gearing move types would be eliminated from the original list. And again, as mentioned before, both SigmaLogic and SigmaLogic7 Compact are configured with a software called LogicWorks version 2, which is a free download on the website. You can use this to send and receive configuration data to and from the product. And you can create the pre-programmed move, the sequence table that we discussed earlier, and you could also monitor and do test runs on the SigmaLogic and SigmaLogic7 Compact axis. And for this new update, after previously we just gone over the recap of the previous products. For this new launch, we're really launching the 400 volts version of SigmaLogic7 Compact. It is the exact same functionality as the 200 volt SigmaLogic7 Compact. Again, no option card, internal switch available, linear and rotary motor supported by the same amplifier, no external encoder because of lack of option card. The only slight difference is the onboard I/O of the 400 volts is slightly different than the 200 volt. So you're looking at 7 digital input and 5 digital output for the 400 volt product. Same thing is going to be configured using LogicWorks version 2. And just a quick overview of the part number scheme. The only real addition is, if you take a look at the table, is the 4th digit. We added the 400 volt call out. Everything else about the nomenclature is exactly the same. So that really concludes the update for SigmaLogic7 Compact 400 volt. I'm going to move forward with the SLIO I/O update. So just like the previous product, I'm going to do a quick recap of what we've launched before. When we originally launched the SLIO I/O product, as you can see by the table, we really just launched the simple digital input-output, analog input-output. There's no functional module that's launched. There's no communication module that's launched. So originally, we launched about 48 slices with the initial release. With this new release for Ethernet IP slave module, you can tell that we have extended the amount of digital and digital input outputs and analog IOs that's supported. We've also added a bunch of functional module and communication module as a new product line, new release. So all in all, with this new release, the Ethernet IP slave module now supports 78 different slices. On top of that, with this new release, we're also introducing the new Metrolink 3 slave module. And as you can see on this table, there's also a wide range of digital input-output supported. You'll notice that no communication modules are supported by the M3 slave module, but a list of functional modules will be supported by the Metrolink 3 slave modules. With the Metrolink 3 slave modules, we are now supporting 66 SLIO slices. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of new slices that's introduced, and I can't exactly go into every single one of them in details, but I would like to highlight a couple ones that may be of interest to the users. So the first one is the introduction of the communication module. Keep in mind that communication modules are only for Ethernet IP slave modules. The two that are introduced are the RS-232 interface and the RS-422 485 interface. And the protocol that will be supported are ASCII, STX, ETX, as well as Modbus. And these particular slices are very useful when trying to communicate with specialty devices or very old devices. The other module that is interesting is the introduction of the load cell module. We support both 4-wire and 6-wired load cells, and these are very good for applications where you need to check product weight, any type of press fitting application, or tightening application. So that's available right now. Another interesting new module that's introduced is the energy measurement terminals. It allows measurement of electrical data for users to be able to evaluate energy consumption and power consumption efficiency. Some of the available measurements include voltage, current, power, power factor, frequency, and temperature. So if you made any change in your system and would like to see the effect in terms of power consumption, you could use this module to see the effect. Last but not least, of course, with the Metrolink 3 slave module being introduced, one of the more anticipated module that's being released is the SSI module. Now you could do synchronization of one machine to another, and it allows the user to use VFD as a master access. So SSI encoder module is now available. So that concludes my update for both SigmaLogic7 Compact as well as for the SLIO I/O. I'm going to pass the floor over to Scott, and he will be discussing the newly launched batteryless encoder. Scott?
Okay, thanks, Jackie. So the batteryless encoder, so I'm sure most everyone on this call is very familiar with Yaskawa servo products, and our absolute feedback device on our rotary motors, we've always had to have a battery backup to store the absolute position on the encoder chip. So you can see here down at the bottom this graphic. So basically with the battery, this is kind of how the encoder looks. You've got volatile memory on a board, a small board that's inside the rear end bell of the motor. That memory is stored on that volatile memory with the use of this battery. So we've designed a version of the encoder that doesn't require the battery. And so what that looks like is we've now got non-volatile memory on the encoder board. And now when you lose power to the motor, basically the motor is using power that's generated by the permanent magnets and the electromagnet in the coils. So when your shaft moves, there's just enough energy to store a new position on the non-volatile memory, and then when you power back up, it is stored there, so it remembers where you are with the absolute data. So basically, we don't need, moving forward, we're not going to need the battery anymore. We've had tons of customers for years complain about the battery in the cable. So this is a pretty big deal for a lot of customers, and I think a lot of our existing customers are going to be really happy about this. So in general, we're going to simplify wiring and go into like a no maintenance type cable. There's no more changing batteries after 5 years or whatever. You don't even have to worry about that anymore. We will be, with these motors, we'll just utilize our standard incremental encoder cables that already exist. So you just move from a battery type cable to a non-battery type cable. There's no change in performance of the feedback device. It's the same resolution, same performance of the servo loops and the accuracy and the servo performance. This hardware, the batteryless encoders last the life of the motor, so there's no difference in quality from that standpoint. Right now, this option is only available on the 200 volt motors. And that is the SGM7J, the SGM7A, and the SGM7G motors. So only the Sigma 7 200 volt motors at this point in time. And they are physically different part numbers. So all the motors with batteryless feedback are in stock now. We've invested a considerable amount of money in inventory for these new motors. So basically, we're ready to sell these now, so you can start promoting those to customers. Another quick note is there's a different rear end bell on the motors, on the batteryless motors, that's 8 millimeters longer than the standard rear end bell. So across the board, there's 8 millimeters is added to the length of your motor when you choose batteryless. So as far as pricing goes, there is an adder on the motor of $160 list price if you choose the batteryless over the old battery type. So it is a little bit more expensive, but when you consider the entire system, so you're going from a cable with a battery to a cable without a battery. So your overall price hit on amplifier, motor, and cables isn't that bad. So on the smaller motors, up to 1 kilowatt, it's roughly a $30 list price delta between, on your left here, the lower priced version with the battery, and on the right you've got the slightly more expensive version without the battery. And then if you look at the larger SGM7G motors, so basically anything above 1 kilowatt, it's roughly a $100 list price adder to go to the batteryless type. Part numbering wise, very similar part numbering. It's just this digit for the encoder. The 6 designates the batteryless type, while the 7 is what we're used to on Sigma 7 with the battery type. So with regard to our sales strategy, you can promote this option on the motors to all new customers, and you can transition any existing customers to the batteryless type motors as you need to. Again, we're stocking batteryless encoder motors with the assumption that eventually all customers who are utilizing the absolute feedback on our motors are going to transition and buy this option, and we're going to assume that any customer moving forward is going to pick this option, and we're stocking accordingly to that. We are going to continue to stock the battery type motors because, as you know, we're not currently stocking incremental feedback. So basically, this becomes our incremental feedback motor. So customers that don't need to use or don't want to use the absolute data on the encoder, you just change a parameter in the amplifier, use those as incremental motors. And they can continue doing that. We're going to continue to stock those motors. So sales tools for all the products that Jackie mentioned, the new products and these batteryless motors, all these things have been updated into our online pricing tool. So if you go in there today, you'll be able to configure bills of materials for all these products that we're talking about. The Sigma 7 technical supplement is in the process of being updated for these new products. That update will be live on the website probably within a few days. We didn't quite get that all wrapped up and up on the website before this webinar, but we expect that to be up and updated definitely by the end of this week. The drawing configurator, where you can kind of easily go in on our website and find solid model drawings for all of our Sigma 7 products, that has been updated. And so you'll see the new motors with the batteryless feedback on that product. And also Yaskawa.com will reflect information on all these new products moving forward. So you'll be able to find all that stuff on the website. So I think that's it for what Jackie and I had to take care of. Now Mark is going to go through a software demonstration.
We are going to talk today about the software changes for the both SigmaLogic and the MotionWorks IEC to support the new SLIO I/O functionality for MicroLink 3. I will point out that this is only going to cover that particular section of version 3.6 of the MotionWorks software, but in another 2 weeks' time, maybe 3 weeks' time, we'll have another webinar to cover that entire release in detail. So let's start with LogicWorks. LogicWorks 2.3 is the version you're going to be using for the new version. And when you create a new project now, of course, you see the different types of controllers that you get. SigmaLogic, which is with the module attached to the side, or the new SigmaLogic7s, both compact and Modbus, in either rotary or linear. And in version 2.3, I'm using version 2.2. In version 2.3, there's another option here that is 200 volts or 400 volts for those motors that or those amplifiers that support that. So that's really the only difference you'll see in software. The software is smart enough to know what's available as far as I/O and things like that. So in this I/O display, for example, you can see the drive I/O here in the CN1 section. If we were using the one with an add-on module, the standard SigmaLogic, we would see actual external I/O here as well, but those have been converted to just flags because, again, the system's smart enough to know that those I/O aren't available on a SigmaLogic Compact. So that's really the only change you're going to see in version 2.3 is an extra little checkbox to tell you whether you're going to use 200 volts or 400 volt motors. When we look at the SLIO I/O, let me open hardware configuration here. With the MechaTrolink bus coupler, it's added just like any other MechaTrolink device. If you right-click on the MechaTrolink 3 node and choose Add Device, then in our little drop-down list here under Yaskawa I/O device, you'll see the SLIO bus coupler, the IM053ML. When you add that, it will, like any other MechaTrolink device, ask you for the node number. However, we have to keep in mind that with the MechaTrolink 3 bus coupler, it may actually take multiple node numbers, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So I just added a new bus coupler here, and I gave it address 3. And if you click on it, you'll see a configuration screen that looks a lot like the one for Ethernet IP that you may already be familiar with. And just like with Ethernet IP, I can choose different modules and either drag them over here to add them to the list or double-click them to add them to the list. Now you'll notice two things as I'm adding them here. It is actually adding an extended I/O node. So now this MechaTrolink bus coupler, that the bus coupler itself is taking up node 3, now it's going to take up node 4 as well because we have some modules. And as you add more modules, it may take up more and more node spaces. So let me add another few here, and I think the next one, there we go. Now it's added a second extended I/O module, and now that whole device will take up nodes 3, 4, and 5 over MechaTrolink 3. Another thing you may have noticed is right now I'm adding counter modules. When I add a counter module, it actually adds an access ID number so that we can use it as an external access. So we can actually do, if you're using one of the counter modules for SLIO, we can actually do gearing following one of the SLIO masters, or SLIO counters, I should say. One limitation compared to Ethernet IP that we have in this particular release is that parameters cannot be set on the or through hardware configuration itself. Parameters must be set using the web interface of the bus coupler itself. That is a limitation that we are working to fix in our next release. But as of right now, that is our limitation. So that's our explanation of of these new products. We're going to take just a couple minutes here to go over your questions, and we'll be right back with some answers for you. Thank you.
So one of the first question was, what if any motor amplifier combination are not available to use with SigmaLogic? So currently, the SGM7D motor will require a FT82 option to work with SigmaLogic7 Compact. So that's currently not available. We are working on it, and we have done some testing. So if you do have applications that require SGM7D motor, please bring it to my attention. We are pushing forward with that, and can potentially give you an evaluation unit depending on the application. The other combination that is still not available for, well, actually, it is available for SigmaLogic7 Compact, just not as a combined part number. So we have ran into applications where customers are asking for different, like the full closed loop card or the feedback option card. So our plan is to create a single part number combination for the SigmaLogic7 Compact with the option cards, but currently that's not completed yet. So right now, the best way to approach that request like that is to order the option card and the amplifier separately, and then combine them in the field yourselves. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a few questions about batteryless motors. First one is, how long does the position get maintained, the absolute position? That gets maintained forever for the life of the motor. So it's in non-volatile memory on a chip that's in the encoder. So yeah, that'll be there indefinitely. Another question, when will new batteryless encoders be made available on the 400 volt? I am in discussions with the mothership in Japan right now about that development. So I'm hoping that those are going to become available soon. I'll keep you posted on that, but I am investigating that. But right now, it's just the 200 volt motors. Another question on batteryless motors. So why no batteryless motors on the P-style motors? Those do exist, actually. We just decided not to stock them because we don't do much of any volume on the P-style motors anymore. But if you have an application where you might need that, a batteryless version of a P motor, you can let us know through our field sales staff, and we can get those from Japan. Is there an issue with if a batteryless motor is plugged into the battery cable? No, there's no issue. We've tested and confirmed this within our engineering groups. Basically, the batteryless motor doesn't have the pins for the battery connection, so it doesn't even see that there is any battery. So no, that's if you're retrofitting a motor in the field, you can just leave the batteryless cable intact and it'll be fine. Or the battery type cable intact and it'll be fine. Does the hardware configuration need to change in the software with a battery absolute? So basically, if you move to a batteryless encoder, does anything have to change? No, the answer is no. Nothing in the hardware configuration. Nothing. No parameters have to be changed in the amplifier. It just recognizes what you have, just like it would with a battery type encoder. If you turn the motor shaft without any power, will the position update in the encoder? Yes, it will. So basically what happens is when you turn the shaft, even just a little bit with your hand, it generates energy, and it generates enough energy that it's able to store a new position in the on the non-volatile RAM. That's how I understand it to work, and I know that it does work for sure. I'm not clear on technically exactly how that works, so hopefully that's a good enough explanation for you, but I can guarantee you that it does work, and we've tested this. So if you move the shaft, it's going to store the new position. I think that is all the questions about the batteryless motors, but if I see any more, I'll jump back in. But go ahead.
There's a question about changing the parameters of the Mechatrolink 3 bus coupler. Again, that is done over the web interface, so it's kind of a two-step process. The first thing you have to do is put your Mechatrolink 3 bus coupler into a Ethernet mode. So there's a dip switch that you can turn on to do that, and once you power it on with that, then you connect to it with an IP address just like any other Ethernet device, and you can get to its web interface. And again, we'll have some help files and application notes to guide you through that as well. But yes, the Mechatrolink 3 bus coupler does have its own web interface for parameter changes. It looks exactly like the Ethernet IP version.
So there was also a question of where can I find a full list of SLIO modules available? So currently, if you go to the website and go under product, motion, and machine controllers, under the remote I/O section, if you look at the model specification, it would kind of break down the different modules in terms of power modules, digital signal, analog signal. All the available modules are listed on there. Also, when you land on the SLIO modules page, there is a document named supported SLIO part numbers. Currently, it's not updated to the newest version, but in a couple of days, I'm going to show my screen as well. So in a couple of days, this link right here will have a document that shows you all the modules available. But before that's ready, under module specification, you'll see a breakdown of potential distribution module, power, digital signal, analog. So all the part numbers, the full list is available online. Okay. So that's all the questions we got. And if you think of any other questions later on, please feel free to email me or call me. Most of you should have my contact information. And just so you know, there will be another webinar coming up on August 5th, specifically covering all the other different features that we did not cover for MotionWorks IEC version 3.6. Thank you so much for joining, and until the next time, thank you.